Our next guest is a New York Times bestselling author of numerous psychological thrillers, including the just released Her Dark Lies, and a co-author, along with Catherine Coulter, of the mega popular A Brit in the FBI series. She's also the Emmy Award-winning co-host of the television series A Word on Words. JT Ellison, welcome to Thriller Talk.
I am thrilled to be here with you guys today, pun intended.
No, listen, we're thrilled to have you here. I'm thrilled I just crushed your intro on one take after I warned you it was going to take like 8 takes.
Right?
But I'm a huge fan of yours. And I think you know that. So's my wife. She's jealous. She's downstairs. So before we get into the books, though, here's a question I wanted to ask you for a long time. You have some of the best twists. Like, I never see them coming, and it makes me mad because I'm a critic, and my job is to always see the twist coming ahead of time. And you're one of those few writers that I don't, and I get all upset because I'm like, God, how did I not see that? You and Harlan Coben, I have a bone to pick with you. But my question is, so do you come up with these twists? Like, and I don't want to reveal any of them because it's a spoiler. I want people to enjoy your work. But when you have a great twist, do you come up with that ahead of time, or does it come to you when you're writing?
9 times out of 10, it comes to me when I'm writing.
Oh, wow.
It's very rare that I know what a twist is going into a story. Very, very rare. Good Girls is the only one I think I've ever written that I knew what the ending was before I started writing. Not before, but really early on. I was writing a short story for The Strand, and which I've never turned in, by the way. Sorry about that. But I was writing this short story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the ending of my book. This is my epilogue, and it's got a twist in it. Oh, okay. So that's, and honestly, it's much harder for me to write a book when I know what's going to happen. I'm the kind of person, I want to be surprised. I'm not a planner, and I'm not a outliner, but I do like to kind of have an idea of what my beats are, what my reversal beats are. But no, if I'm surprised, you're surprised, and I find that works really well. And then if I've telegraphed something, I try to go back and make sure I take that out so it doesn't, lead you. Unless it's a book that I'm not trying to obscure what the twist is, that I'm not trying to have that reversal, that it's just some sort of slow build, that I want the reader to know what the story is, and I want them to be involved, but I don't want the characters to know what it is. So that's a little more of a thriller in suspense than traditional suspense.
I'm really thrilled to hear that you're an organic writer, because I'm the same. And it's so, to me, if I plotted it all out, I would be bored and uninspired to write it. So kudos.
Yeah, I do. I like discovering as I'm going. It's fun.
Yeah, it is half the fun. So JT, given all your accolades, the awards, and by the way, I was there the night you won the Thriller Award, and all the starred reviews and other, really impressive credentials. What do you think is the proudest moment of your writing career?
Well, getting that first deal. I mean, that was quite a moment. My parents were visiting, and it had been quite a while since the book had, I didn't know what was going to happen. And when you see that 212 area code, it's like, oh, either this is good or it's bad. It's never in between. They never call with just a chat. They're always calling to tell you something. So that was a really interesting, fun moment because, my parents were there. I'm having this one-sided conversation. I hung up the phone. I called my husband. I put it on speaker, and I burst into tears. It was pretty awesome. Followed a close second by the night I won the Thriller, which I truly did not think I had a shot at. So I was completely shocked. And I had horrible laryngitis. I don't know if you remember, I literally was speechless because I couldn't talk. And I made the mistake. I was so shocked and so blown away. And I thanked Randy to start, and I burst into tears again. And I'm not a big crier, but big, huge emotional things. And I barely got through thanking everybody at ITW for that incredible honor. So those are really big, exciting moments for me.
Well, JT, as most your readers know, you co-authored with Catherine Coulter for years. What's that process like? And specifically, I'll ask you later on about the series in general, the future of it. But the writing process, how is it different writing with someone than just plain writing on your own?
It's so different. And the problem is I am not a plotter and Catherine is not a plotter. We're both completely organic. And we had to learn how to plan and plot and outline and figure things out because um, uh, she's done this for so many years. She knows exactly what her readers want and she knows how to get there. She's an incredibly disciplined writer. I am too, but in a different way. I mean, she has like that perfect habit. She's up, she's on the computer writing first thing, and that's just not me. We're very opposite in that way. But having a second brain on a problem really is fantastic. The writing's not going well. We talked almost every day, and as we were drafting this and drafting the books, and I could say, hey, this doesn't work. We thought we were going to do this. We're stuck on a plane for 12 hours. I need to do something different. And so having somebody as a sounding board was incredibly valuable. She taught me a lot about writing. I mean, you get a master's class when you co-write with somebody of her stature, you get a master's class in writing. And I learned a lot. I mean, her books, she's an extrovert. Her books are really heavy on dialogue. I'm an introvert. My books are really heavy on description and exposition. And, it's just, we have a totally different style. So merging the two styles into her style. It's not, it's her book, it's her brand, it's her style. But that took a little bit of work to try to get to that right voice and that right, the tenor of everything. um and I couldn't write her dialogue. That was where I really struggled. So I would get the books about 80% of the way there, and then she would go in and change all the dialogue that I'd written to stuff that sounded more like her. And that worked out really well for several years. What, 6 books? 6 books, yeah.
Well, and she's so much fun too. I mean, I
She's a
always
blast.
when Catherine comes and we talk shoes because she loves her shoes. And, great lady. And I love the view from her place too, when she puts on, the
Yeah,
gorgeous view. Anyways,
yeah,
so
it's a pretty cool spot.
get to go visit a lot. So I absolutely respect and admire your passion for research, the fact that you've attended autopsies, interviewed survivalists. Is there a story you can share where your research led to a complete reversal in a book or an idea for another book?
Honestly, there's two moments. One was the very first overnight patrol that I did. We went to we were walking out. All right, I'll even back up further. We were doing roll call, and the captain said, we have a writer doing a ride along tonight. So and so, I'd like her to ride with you. And he was like, I'm not taking a chick out. No way. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm a chick? No. I'm a serious writer. I'm a serious researcher. He wouldn't have anything to do with me. And it was a different cop who stood up and said, I'll take her. It's fine. So he takes me out. We aren't even to his car when we get a call to go to a stabbing on Lishi Avenue, which is it's a much better area of town now than it was back then. And we got there, and he bolts from the car. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, just stay with me. I bolt from the car. I follow him. We go up to the man who's been stabbed, and he's bleeding out, dies there. They catch the guy that does it, right? He was in the crowd. They get him. They get the murder weapon. We had a full chain of evidence from the beginning of the night, just the whole encapsulated thing. I mean, they couldn't have set it up better, right? So I get to see every step of the process from the murder to the booking. And I got home, it was 6 a.m. They had taken me for hot chicken too. I'm like, I don't know that I can eat hot chicken after that. Maybe not. I get home and I'm telling my husband, and I look down and the guy's blood's on my cowboy boot. And that kind of brought it all home, that this wasn't this, really sexy thing that we see on TV. This is a real thing. These are real people. They're going through horrific situations with people that are being stressed at the worst moment of their lives. And it changed the tenor of everything I was doing, and it made it much more serious, and it made me as a writer much stronger. And I knew then what I needed to do with Taylor and that series to make it really come alive. And that's the other moment, was the first autopsy, when I didn't know there was going to be blood. You don't see blood on TV in an autopsy. It's very sterile, and yeah, no. Nope. Nope. Very different. Very different than
My
what you would
thing. At any point in that ride along moment, did you think, what a dumb criminal? They caught him in the crowd, just hanging out watching. Like, I feel like,
right, he took off running.
okay,
And
okay.
the family that was there, with their guy who's dying, husband, brother, whatever, I don't know what he was to them. I tried to find out after the fact, and I couldn't get any information, which was really sad, because it was one of those murders that nobody covers, just another night in the projects, which was also kind of horrifying to me. But yeah, they saw him, and they're like, they had a fight earlier, and they pointed him out. He took off running. Cops go after him, get him, wrestle him down. He's got the murder weapon on, got blood on it. I mean, slam dunk case, all in a 30-minute little loop. It's crazy.
It's like not even a short story. It'd be like a 6-page book. You can't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was flash fiction. I mean, it would have happened in less than 1,000 words. That scene is in. It's in one of the books. I don't remember which one, but it's her seminal moment. It's Taylor's seminal moment too, when she's a rookie, and she goes out on a call. I think it's in 14. She goes out on a call and gets the suspect's blood on her boots, and it really brings it home for her what she's doing. So,
well, in keeping to that research, so obviously you've done so much of it. You're known for that. How has that changed during COVID? As you're writing right now, are you able to still do the same sort of research under lockdowns and social distancing?
I'm trying to write books that I don't need to do heavy research, that I'm drawing on my own, my own imagination, or something that I can just Google really fast. I'm writing something right now that's a little bit different, and it harkens back a bit to my earlier work. And yeah, I have a feeling that some of the stuff has changed since, forensics changes so quickly. There are new ways of identifying suspects. Everything in DNA has changed dramatically in the past 10 years, the things that they can do. So I am having to do some research, but there's a lot of great stuff online. And I have people who I've worked with in the past that I can send a note and say, hey, here's what's happening. This is what I want to happen, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, yes, that could happen. That couldn't, you need to do this. And so they keep me pretty square. It is, once I've done all that research, I kind of already have that base, and it can be just a little pick here and a little pick there, just to get little things to make things come to life, instead of having to start from scratch every time.
It's smart. And I think too, like you said, when you've got this huge body of knowledge from all the research you've done, you can draw on those, right? It's really nice to have that foundation. And then
you would know that, because you do an extensive amount of research yourself. So yeah, you have that. It's your foundation. It's, you know how to write, how a crime scene is going to look. It's really, really an easier way to do it.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you find this too, but I find it's easier because what happens is you got the foundation, and then you figure out what you need for the story, and then you can go get that, instead of just thinking, all this is overwhelming, right?
Right. Where do I start? How do I even do this? What do the readers want? The readers don't want your research. They don't want to know that. I mean, I'll read a book to get a single line, right? It's the iceberg of all icebergs. You see that, and I've done this, this. Accordion, should I do the accordion instead? Yeah, it's just, the reader doesn't want the research, unless they're reading something like, Brad Thor, that it's gun, 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 or Mark Greaney, gun, gun, gun. They want all the really cool little tidbits, but in the stuff that I'm writing now, the suspense, that's just not as important. That's not what's going to draw somebody to the story that I'm trying to create.
Yeah, it's all about the characters, and I love that.
Yep, all about the characters.
And so I really admire your ability for short story writing, because I just wrote my first one and realized how hard they are. And I wondered if you could maybe give us some insight into the way you tackle a short story versus, encompassing a long novel. What are the differences to you, and how do you approach it?
It's a chapter. I look at it as it's a chapter in a much bigger canvas, and you're dropping in on a story in the middle. So it's always got to be in media res. You don't want to, start at the beginning and try to work your way through. You want to drop in on a moment, and you're just exploring that moment for them. It does not, it doesn't have to have a huge overreaching arc, but it does have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I got, early on, a lot of training doing flash fiction, trying to write a whole story in under 1,000 words. And that's a really good training exercise for when you're starting to write them that are 6,000 or 10,000. They are just their own encapsulated world. And you just don't need as much for them. And they are, when you're a natural novelist, and they're really hard. They're really hard. It's like, what part of this story do I want to tell?
1,000 words. I have reviews longer than 1,000 words. I can't even believe that. That would be so intimidating to try and do.
Yeah.
Before
They're
I
fun.
I know, right? Before I
They're
get to
fun.
your latest book, which I have my early copy here, which is fantastic, by the way. It's so good.
Thank
I want to ask you about a different one that you wrote. So a longtime reader, big fan. My favorite book of yours is also one of my wife's favorite books, Lie to Me. And I wanted to ask you kind of forever, where did the story idea for this one, for that one, come from?
We were in Paris. My husband took me to Paris for a big birthday. We travel a lot, and we do things, especially for birthdays. Birthdays and anniversaries, we're always like, I don't want a present, I want an experience. So we had gone to France for the first time, and I was sitting in a cafe in the 15th. I was watching this girl who came up. She was It's like, how do you eat a cheeseburger in Paris? Because they're like that big. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, how in the world is she gonna tackle that? Because she was really little. And out comes her fork and her knife. And I was like, oh, that's so proper. No wonder that's how they do that. And they eat like a quarter of it. And sorry, a cat. We have cats. And I'm thinking what my mother would have said about how I was approaching the food. And for some reason, a whole thing popped into my head about a woman who's come to Paris to be a writer, to get away from a fight she's had with her mother. And she's doing it despite her. So she's gone there, and she gets wrapped up in a murder and is blamed for the murder. And that, I know that has really very little to do with the book that you ended up reading. But that was the initial concept, and it wouldn't let me go. I was working on, I think I was working on a Catherine book at the time. Yes, I was, because I was doing a little bit of research while I was there for one of the Catherine books. And it just wouldn't let me go. And I came home and I wrote some of it, and I wrote a little bit more. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm writing a book. I'm gonna have to think about this. And that's when Ivy appeared to me. I've figured out, okay, I've got a slightly different group of characters than I thought. And I've got a completely different point of view than I thought. And now I got to go back to Paris because now I actually need to figure out how to set this book there. So we went back to Paris, and I sat in the cafes and wrote. I was just, it's always been my dream as a writer to be a writer in Paris. And so I was for a few days, and it was glorious. And I, mapped out where everything is and what happens. And then I came home and I finished that book, and I agree, it's one of my favorites too. It just is a complete departure from everything I had ever done before. Those books where you finish and you feel creatively satisfied that you've done the best you can possibly do. It's remarkable, and it's something elusive.
I felt the way about that book I think most people felt about Gone Girl. I was so hyped. Also didn't know the cheeseburger connection there. I have a lot of stories coincidentally that also involve a cheeseburger that I never got a novel out of. Okay. So
I know, right?
I like that tidbit. It all makes sense now why I love that one. The cheeseburger connection.
There's a lot of champagne at that moment too. That might have helped.
Even better. I'm cheeseburgers and champagne, and lie to me. Everyone needs to go read that one.
That's fantastic.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's wonderful to be inspired by, I think, travel too, where it almost gives you permission to think outside the box and be something different because you're not in your home environment. And that's what I find too. I agree with you that you're somewhere and all of a sudden something twigs. Now, a lot of writers have other creative pursuits and outlets, and I think it's fantastic. Some people are artists, sometimes, sculptors. You seem to have a passion for wine. And
Speaking of champagne.
I love champagne. That's my favorite drink. And so you're the wine vixen in an alter, ego. And can you tell us a bit more about that? How you developed your taste for wine, and what you're trying to do with the wine vixen?
I do love wine, and it's been on hold for a while because I've been juggling so much that I have a tendency to bite off more than I can chew. So Wine Vixen is a wine blog where I just rate things that I like. It started though on Murderati years and years and years ago when we had the Murderati blog on Fridays. That was my day, and I would give a wine tip at the end of every blog. It just was just something fun to do, something different, something new. I always wanted to find a way to be a value added author. And my contribution was wine. Yeah, because we're all better with wine. We all are better with wine. But I love it, and we've been to wine country in a number of different areas. Obviously, I'm Italian. I mentioned that, so it's a big thing for our family. We just, I love it. I'm also celiac, so I can't drink beer. And I didn't know that for many years. And so I actually had to quit drinking entirely for many, many years, because we didn't know why I was getting sick every time I drank. And then obviously it was beer. I'm allergic to wheat. So I was like, oh, so I tried some champagne and it didn't make me sick. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And so we started researching all of those things, and that became very interesting to me.
I love it.
Now, because you can't have wheat, does that mean you also didn't get to try the big burger while you were researching?
And I don't eat red meat either.
Listen, if you need salt for that, I'm just saying that's where I could come into play. Listen, I know so many people want to know, so I have to ask you this, okay? Because I've got this tweet a lot, so let's get the answer together. So many people have asked me, do I have any idea if you and Catherine will do another book in that series? Will that continue in the future?
As of now, no. As of now, it's capped. It ended on a really great spot. Catherine felt like it was the time to walk away from it, and so I'm gonna say not with me, but never say never. You should never say never. You never know when inspiration strikes and you decide you want to do something again. Who knows? That's a terrible non-answer, wasn't it?
That's pretty good, though. I mean, I think
I don't think so. I do think that series is finished. I think that collaboration. We're still super super close friends. We talk all the time. Still emailing almost every day. It's none of that's changed. It's just the series ran its course. What do you do when you've saved the world? Where do you go from there? Yeah, I mean, we literally saved the world. Everything else kind of feels small after that. So maybe a mistake in plotting on our part. I don't know.
I hear you, but there's been 3 Avengers movies, 4. So there's always hope. The world could
blow
be
up New York, and but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a new villain.
Well, it is hard though, isn't it? Because you want to end on a bang, right? And you did. So it's like you got there, but you never know, like you said, and maybe an idea will come to you one day and you'll just be like, Catherine, what do you think of it?
Maybe. Yeah. Again, never say never.
That's
especially
great.
not in this industry. You just never know.
I love that you have such a great working relationship with her too, that, you know, you become
It's
friends.
awesome.
It's critical, you know, especially when you're co-writing. It's like you almost become one person back and forth.
Right. I mean, there were moments early on when we were literally on the phone writing together. I mean, I couldn't keep up. We're typing and we're replacing words, and it was just this bizarre flow that we, as writers, we all get in that flow. We got in the flow together. It was really special. I mean, it was really, really special. She's a hoot. I love her to pieces.
Me too. So in this beautiful new book, I don't think you could have asked for a better setting, right, than the Italian coast. And weddings, something always goes wrong at a wedding. So where did this idea come from? And, you know, why did you set it there? Did you travel?
I did, as a matter of fact. We were in Italy for another big birthday. I think I said I had mentioned before, but I hadn't mentioned. I'm Italian. My family is from Italy, and we always go over there every couple of years to see everyone and get everybody together. I've got cousins that are my age, and it's really, really fun. So we had gone over. We had taken, I guess there were 7 of us from the States who went over to visit the 6 over there. And we got a van that we nicknamed Van Gogh, and we were driving around. It was kind of a really challenging trip because it rained almost every day. We all got colds. So, we're driving around Switzerland at that point, and we're all sick and they're shouting. And yeah, it was one of those long, long, long trips. And we landed in Como, and the sun came out. It's like, oh, and I woke up on my birthday to a sunny day on Lake Como. I'm like, all right, this made everything before it worth it. We took the ferry all over the place. And there's an island across from a hotel called Comachina. And I did a little bit of research on it, and it has some very bizarre traditions to it. One of which, you have to drink a certain kind of coffee at the end of the evening before you leave so the demons don't follow you off the island. Really just fun stuff, right? And my brain starts going. And then a yacht pulls up, and off gets a wedding party. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I need this. This is very cool. And then the sun goes down and fireworks start. I'm like, okay, this is a story. There's a story here. What is going on? Who are these people in this beautiful yacht and shooting off fireworks? And I knew right then I needed to write this as a story because somebody was dead. Somebody had died. It's just where all of those things come from. So I took Comachina, which is much too small for what I envisioned, and I married it with Capri, and I set it on the west, off even further west from there in the Tyrrhenian Sea. And it's the island that Scylla lives on. And the Charybdis is right across the way, and everybody's trying to get through that channel without either drowning in the whirlpool or being eaten. And it's a very, very fitting. So there's a lot of historical stuff in there for the island to hang its hat on.
Sounds like a beautiful setting to get married.
Right? You would think, but like you said, nothing ever goes right at a wedding. Something always goes wrong. And this is definitely it's a J.T. Ellison novel, so things go dreadfully wrong. Not just wrong, dreadfully wrong.
I love it. So before we let you go today, we would love to hear what's next in the docket, because we cannot wait.
I am working on something, but I'm not really willing to talk about it. It's still very fresh and new. But what I will tell you is I wrote a short story that's going to be in an anthology later this year from Suspense Magazine. And I'm really excited about it because it was so much fun, and I got to kind of harken back to my thriller roots, and it was a really fun story to write.
Well, that's exciting, because I'm going to be able to say I was in the same anthology as you, because that's
where yay!
So that's an exciting way to end the interview. I didn't realize that. That's great. And it's called Infinity, the anthology itself, and it's all based somehow with numbers.
Yes. So my story is called Lush 49.
Ooh, Okay. Well, I'm excited to read. Thank you.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see them. It's a great anthology. Really fun.
So thanks a lot for joining us today. Thrilled to have you here, and can't wait to see what the mystery project is all about.
And go get Her Dark Lies.
Yes, go get Her Dark Lies. That would be awesome.
One for your friend too.
Yeah, one for you, one for your friend, mom, dad, anybody, feel free to buy more than one.
Listen, it is a book so good. I promise when you finish it, you're going to want someone to talk about it with. So it's actually not a bad idea. Pick up 2 copies. I had my wife, so she read the advanced copy too. And her and I talked about it for like 2 days. So it's one of those types of books. When you finish it, there's those books or a movie, something that you take in that you love so much, you want to talk about it with someone. This is one of those things. So yeah, get one for you, your best friend. And JT Ellison, thank you so much for coming on Thriller Talk. We loved having you and look forward to that mystery project.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on. You guys do great work. Keep it up.